Hello, everybody. Are you ready for some Ronlin Foreman wisdom? I hope so. My name is Barnaby King, and this is Clownversations.
It's just a conversation with a fellow clown. It's not very serious, we're clowning around. It's really just a clownversation.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Clownversation this Friday, October 20th. Today, I'm going to be talking to just one of the giants, the veterans, the gurus in the clown teaching world, Ronlin Foreman. He's going to be coming up in just a moment. If you're new to the Clown Spirit channel here on YouTube, you're so welcome. We are a family here at Clown Spirit, and we love to have new family members and welcome you in. So please hit that subscribe button if you're new on YouTube. And if you're not new, welcome back. Please jump into the chat, say hi, let us know where you are, what you're doing. You can also like this video. That helps to spread the word and get it out there. And even share it on your Facebook feed or on Instagram. Go ahead, share the clown wondrousness with the whole world. If you don't know me, my name is Barnaby, and I'm the founder of Clown Spirit, where we take the power of clowning and we use it to bring lightness, joy, and connection to your life and the lives of everybody around you. That's what we do every day here at Clown Spirit. If you haven't checked it out yet, check out our website at clown-spirit.com, where we have all the programs and classes and workshops that you could ever possibly want. We have monthly Clown X masterclasses. This month, we have one coming up next week with the amazing Russian clown Misha Usov. We also have the Clown for Life program, which is a coaching program. We have the Clown Connection, which is my 8-week clown course, and a whole lot more. So check it out there, www.clown-spirit.com. All right, folks. So as I said, please do jump into the chat and say hi. It's great to know who is tuning in every week. And as we get into the conversation with Ronlin in just a minute, if you have questions for him, that would also be a way to share those questions, because we love to have your questions and to feed them into the conversation. So who do we have here today? Let us know in the chat. Say hi, jump in there, get busy, be part of the conversation. All right. E.D. Krauser. Hi, welcome. So good to have you here. All right. And so as you're jumping into the chat there, I am going to introduce my amazing guest this week, Ronlin Foreman. Now, Ronlin really is one of the most experienced and respected teachers around today. And I'm so happy and honored to have him here. We did have a failed attempt a few weeks ago to talk, and we were all very sad because it didn't work out. But guess what? Ronlin, because of Clownversations and maybe other things too, has acquired a new computer. And now it all works and it's all great. Hi, Mike. So he is here today. He's waiting in the wings. If you don't know Ronlin, I don't know where you've been, because he is a very, very influential, important figure in the contemporary clowning world. He began way back in 1976 in the theater with the Everyman Players. He has created a whole bunch of amazing solo work. He's perhaps best known for his connection and leadership within the Dell'Arte International School of Physical Theatre as the school's director from 2011 to 2015, and a clown teacher and physical theatre teacher for much longer than that as well. And I'm sure we'll hear all about that. His teaching credits include working with graduate programs in universities, including the University of Tennessee, Memphis State University, Cal State University Summer Arts. He also taught at Ringling Brothers Clown College, has conducted workshops and lecture demos extensively nationally and internationally, including one time when I was lucky enough to be able to bring him over when I was teaching at Edge Hill University in the UK, and brought Ronlin over. So I had the experience of hanging out with Ronlin for for several days, and it was an absolute delight. And I managed to take several workshops with him and also see his amazing performance, Pigeon show. So, without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Mr. Ronlin Foreman to this Clownversation stage. Hello, Ronlin. Was that a big enough welcome?
Hey, Barry. Yeah, Barnaby. It was very much a fine.
Thank you so much for being here. It's really a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Yeah. Thank you, and thanks for the impetus to correct my technical problems.
Well, obviously the problem was that you were using the computer in the wrong way, because you know that thing you were holding to your ear. That's
Oh yeah. But that's the new one.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
so
I had to figure this new stuff out. Yeah.
Maybe the hardware isn't the problem; it's the user.
But, well, there we have it, don't we?
That's kind of a philosophical statement, right?
Yes, and yeah, that feeds into the nature of clown, I think, pretty well. Yeah.
Right. It's like it's really not the objects and the world around us that's the problem. It's our inability to use it somehow.
Yeah, to observe it, to really. Yesterday we were talking earlier. Lydia, my wife, had a surgery for a melanoma on her leg, and as they were taking her off in a wheelchair to surgery, I walked with one of the nurses behind the wheelchair, and they peeled the wheelchair off to the double doors to surgery, and I started, I was just following, and she goes, I go, yeah, I'm supposed to go out these double doors, and so I went to those double doors, and pushed. Of course, they're mechanical, and they won't open if you just push them. So I turned back, and I realized you have to slap the thing on the side of the wall. So as I did that, I looked back to say goodbye to Lydia, who was gone. I turned back and the door was opening into me. So I smacked into the door. The nurse who was going was distraught because here's a 41-year-old man who's just been smacked by a mechanical door and is reeling backwards. And she's like, "Are you okay?" I said, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. So I walked through the doors that are now open for me. A nurse passed and said, "Are you okay?" And I looked up in the waiting room, and it was a strange waiting room. I was not familiar with it. And I said, "Oh, I don't know where I am." So it was completely, seriously, it was like a deranged old man had just gotten smacked by this. So it's really my life, but it's I think it's also a portal through our daily experiences. We have a portal to the folly of the clown, or what's really not just the folly of the clown, but of the predicament of the clown, the paradox of the clown. So I was okay after I walked out of the doors of and so I reestablished my my sense of being in place.
So it's like we have these experiences all the time, don't we? That I mean, I think when one does clown a lot, one is tuned into this. So then it happens all the time. Oh, that was a clown moment. That felt like a clown moment.
Yes, yeah. And children, this goes back to I will precede you, because in my watching these interviews that you do, you often ask folks, well, how did you get started in this? How did clown bite you? And one of the things that early that I read or came across was In Praise of Folly by Erasmus.
Yeah.
And I think I might have gotten confused with something else over time, because this was back just out of university.
Yeah.
But what I attribute to the intro to that book was a description of the fool the natural fool and the artificial fool, and the natural fool being represented by the child, the old person, and the idiot, the lunatic.
Yes.
And so I bit pretty hard on that. It made a profound amount of sense to me.
Mm.
Uh, a little bit of my problem is that I have kind of the three of those intertwined in my personality. So, so in late 30s and 40s, early 50s, not a child, not an old person, and not 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 certifiably a lunatic.
No.
I I still play in my own personality, not playing knowledgeably, not playing purposefully, but that those things are intertwined in the way that I go about myself in the world. So so yeah, so it's been difficult for me
Mm.
to exist in the world.
And is it getting more difficult? Like, do you find with age there's a that like so child, old age, and idiot, and are you finding that as you move towards old age that there is a return of the clown, or it gets easier in some way to be a clown because you don't have to put it on so much?
Well, no, but I do as an old fellow. I observed um, age in the older man who would speak to people at large, going through a restaurant or standing on the street, or
Mm.
was free to put his hand on a young person and say, as I am apt to do, wow, I really like those gauges. I would like some. The ear loop things, or
Mhm.
the tats, or the way they're. Yeah, there's a fellow here that works in a stocking in a store, um, who has a huge beard. He's late 30s,
Mm. Mm.
and wears crazy hats. Just the kind of person who would be a little ostracized in this community. Um, so I've made good friends with the guy. I
Wow.
go up and go, hey, and my great joy as an older fellow is to take the opportunity to walk up to families in a restaurant, put my hand on the dad's shoulder, and say, how wonderful to watch you guys. How wonderful to see the kids and you all interacting. How,
Mm.
just to be able to uh, move into in and out of the lives of people, you don't know, we'll never see again, and never,
Mm.
there's an opportunity of age
That's really cool.
that I promised myself I would take advantage of.
Yeah, and being older gives you permission somehow to do that.
It totally gives you permission. It's and that's part
Interesting.
of this. I think that's part of this natural fool aspect. The child, the older person, the lunatic. Um, yeah, is
I
that we societally we give um, permission to those three uh, groups to
Oh, interesting.
be themselves in our community. It's become it's had to become socially acceptable because the idiot or the lunatic, because in the American society, those people they were not normal. And so they couldn't be disciplined like a young person, or
Yeah,
they couldn't be hidden like an old person. Um, and so they were shut away,
yeah.
as soon as child was born that was mentally deficient, the surgeon was like, there's a home up on the hill that you should put this kid in because
Yeah.
he'll never do anything.
And we do historically try to shut away children and older people as well.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
also say, right? We send them off to school. We try to discipline them, and we send old folks off to senior homes, and we try to not see them. So there is that. There is some acceptance of their behavior, but we're not so accepting maybe as we used to be.
Yeah, before, early early part of the century, I'm sorry, the 20th century.
Whichever.
Then family, there were really all ages in a family, in a community that were part of it. And and there was more acceptance because there wasn't an institution to deal with them. So the community was expected to deal with them, to be kind to one another. It's bumpy now. Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I really loved about your meeting you, Ronlin, and being in your classes was exactly what is happening right now, which is that every clown teaching becomes really a whole conversation about life and society and history and philosophy. And just the fact that you mentioned Erasmus just now as one of the things that drew you into clowning, right? It speaks to your love of not just clowning as a genre, but the whole literature and poetry and philosophy and ideas and language around clowning.
Yes, kind of, but I have to do what do you call it? A disclaimer. I'm an illiterate. The folks didn't identify. I'm an identical twin. They did not identify us as dyslexic, of course, at that time growing up. And reading was a huge chore for me. Has always been.
Interesting.
Barely got through university.
Yeah.
Really by the kindness of my instructors and a kind of enthusiasm, I guess. Yeah, when one of my theater teachers said, the chairman, this older fellow, the chairman said of this older fellow in the department, yeah, he says that we have to give you whatever grade we need to get you out of here and onto what you need to be doing.
Right.
So
I could see that in you, like
the kindness of strangers. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ronlin, what was it, to come back to that question, other than Erasmus, what was it that sort of hooked you into this clown world?
Well, I did not like clowns. I was a fairly quiet kid. I was a quiet kid. And my great aunt, when we visited her in the summer times, would take us to the Ringling shows. And that was my most unfavorite part with the clowns. There was a kind of ostentation and a kind of, I saw it as a facade. And it frightened me, the thing that, the kind of a stereotypical image of the person weeping behind the big gaudy smile of the clown.
Yeah.
It frightened me. It was a contradiction of terms that was it was frightening.
Interesting.
So I saw on Captain Kangaroo my the fellow I modeled a lot of my work after, the Banana Man. Later at Dell'Arte, found the original in a vaudeville reel I have A. Robbins is his stage name. Adolf Proper was a deviser of props, really amazing stuff. And I've looked at his stuff since then. Well, the original guy, the vaudevillian, and the person who performed Banana Man on Captain Kangaroo, where I saw him, was a fellow who bought all of Robbins' props and things from the estate and the rights to the material. But he very totally full of gimmicks, but always surprised by them. So that he, do you know this person? Do you know this Banana Man? He had a huge overcoat on and pulled a world of stuff out of this coat, filled up a train with all of this stuff that he pulled out of his coat, and went off stage. I think it was something like he produced 360 bananas, as well as grapefruits and oranges and
wow,
clarinet, violins, and was always, ooh, ah, oh, la, 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 la. Was always delighted by this world that was arriving. So it was my only avenue. I was invited to create a clown for a touring vaudeville show that friends from university were making to tour schools. So I had been interested in mime and pantomime and had been developing that as a career for a couple of years, and stepped up. No, I was still in school, and when I got out, so I joined them a year after that, and made a clown with stuff that I did, and modeled it after this guy.
So did you have gimmicks? And
I did not. I didn't. That was not from my world.
What was your clown like?
Pardon?
What was your clown like in those days?
He at the earliest he did mimetic stuff, because that's the world that I had come from. Mime and pantomime. So he did little bits about bubblegum and about discovering things, because the show that we toured was called Bananas. I did stuff with foam banana that I blew it out of my ear, and I had a tiny banana that did in my ear and out my mouth, and
beautiful. I
developed a placard that introduced the show that's off of those, the cubes that unfold and fold and refold. That was on that design, so that out of a square, a whole rectangle evolved that had something, and then it changed to a horizontal, and so it was really simple initially, and I toured with them for about 3 years. At the end, well, the last year probably, the rest of the cast joked about taking a smoke break during my stint on stage, which grew to about a 20-minute entree.
You were like just loving it so much out there.
And it developed, the nexus of relationships developed, and then I also stepped into the audience with some bubblegum shtick, and that could last for the whole duration of the show. So
now we're going to come on to in a bit your sort of view on your take on clowning, which I think is quite unique and unusual. I And I'm wondering where that in the majority came from. Like, has it been gathered and evolved over years, or was there a particular influence or source where a lot of your ideas about clowning you can derive from one source?
I think a lot evolved with my teaching at Dell'Arte, which began, I think, around 82. Avner Eisenberg was doing a lot of teaching and had worked with Carlo Mazzoni Clemente, who founded the school. And I was in residence at a university in West Virginia and got a call from Dell'Arte that said Avner had gotten a better job and had decided to take that and had recommended to them that I do the class. And so that was my first stint out, and it kind of stuck. But in that, I had to look at what I valued in my work. And Carlo, who was in and out of the school at the time, was really instrumental in codifying some of those things. Other people around, there was a fellow, Bruce Mars, and his wife, Anna. Anna was a violist, and they came and sat in on classes. And I remember being particularly interested at that point in time, well, and still, the nature of stillness and silence is what I believe is the basis of the theater, and the baseline of our lives, not action and declamation. So I was in the process of saying to someone, you have to be quiet. After you do this, you have to be quiet. And so Anna leaned over and said, my professor in viola, my teacher that I revere, used to tell me, you have to play the rests. That they're not just there for you to stop playing, but it's there for the time between the notes or the expression of sound. It's part of how we appreciate the sound, is the silences between. So that became a big hallmark. An interest of mine, how one deals with silence and stillness. But how one deals with the nature of discovery, of surprise, of anything can happen all of a sudden. These things are things that came from Carlo, but who was profoundly influenced by Lecoq. Yeah, and then my interest in seeing an entity, clown, arrive from an individual, a character that had their own sense of their own point of view, their own sense of time and place, and that became a really big part of what was going on for me, and a hallmark of that, of my teaching, is the nature of the character clown. In fact, as we go on, the things that I've, and different interviews that you've done, my perspective of clown is that there is a character that is clown that lives in a particular space. A lot of clown that I see is what I understand as clowning. so that one learns clowning, and one decorates one's person to make available to you clowning, as opposed to what is a more difficult place and not always applicable, to discover the character that is in the world clown. So clown to me is a paradox. It's not about a paradox. The character himself standing before the people is paradoxical. And so I laugh. That it doesn't have to be a gimmick or a gag, doesn't have to be a joke, doesn't have to be, but the person who puts on the clown must accept that paradox, that they are laughable, that they are in themselves a provocation to laughter.
And how is that a paradox, Ronlin?
Well, that's difficult for me to explain. I mean, for me to describe, because I don't know that I can explain it. It's that I don't see a congruence about the person. Many people who clown put on the clown attire, and they do it with the objective of clowning and, quote, making people laugh. So there's only there's a single attitude about it that I'm going to do this thing.
Yeah.
So there's not a contradiction in the person themselves. So I look and try to foster that contradiction in oneself. I love these things, I don't like those things, and that's all in myself.
I think that as a teacher, though, you have been known to say, "That's not funny. Go off, try it again."
Yeah, always.
But that's still not implying that laughter is the objective, or being funny is a singular objective, but it's still important. It's still important that this character is funny.
It has to be laughter. The clown has to provoke laughter. Has to. Because it's the same old deal. I give you 6 seconds, and if I don't laugh, goodbye. And in this time, in this era, that seems cruel and untoward, because I should be given the time to express myself, but there is an envelope of time that one plays with that can teach you how to play with the provocation to laugh, for the audience to laugh. And so to be before an audience, to be before the people, is not, I don't accept it as a right. I can't start the class with your privilege to stand before us, because then, so it is a kind of cruel, what's the phrase, a cruel reality. But I'm a fan of Artaud, and in the MFA program, folks had to write a clown play, but it was as part of the study of Artaud, of
Fascinating.
the theater of cruelty.
So
And one of the students, and then once they do this clown play, which is like, for some, I mean, it's a bit grueling for some, but for some it's fun. And then when we get to the point of reading the clown plays or doing the clown plays, the next proposal is we don't do the plays, but they have to create a puppet play of the plays that they wrote. So it's a series of deconstructions and simplifications that they have, because then they get to know more and more about what they're trying to put forward. But that's second, third year program stuff for people who have given themselves
yeah.
to dig their own graves.
So, Ronlin, you mentioned Avner just now, and I also know that you have a long-standing friendship with Jeff Raz as well, and I wonder, but Jeff mentioned to me, that you guys are great friends, but you come from very different perspectives on clown, and I imagine yours differs from Avner's as well, and I wonder if we could get a sense of a little bit more of a sense of your approach to clown, also by comparison to some other teachers. Not to say that they're wrong, of course, but that there's multiple approaches. So, I mean, you might think they're wrong. I don't know. I shouldn't.
I don't know about Avner.
Okay. But with Jeff, what is it that
Jeff Jeff unabashedly teaches gags.
Yeah.
And for the first time when I met him, we did a set of classes. I can't remember, but we were together in a place where there were clown classes, and I got to sit in on his class, and I was pretty stunned that his dialectic about the gag moved toward spontaneity and freedom. My point of view, more and more, at Dell'Arte as I taught, became not about first initiating structures, but about first discovering the base of those structures, and then to admit and to build on it. But my advocacy initially is, you, the student addressing, you already know what you need to learn. That is, you don't know what it is you need to learn, but the what it is you need to learn, you already know. So that we have a tacit knowledge that we are born with, that we move through the world. And a sweet author, kind of mentor of mine, writes, the books that tell us things we don't know are not the most important to us. It's the books that give voice to the things that have lain undefinable in us, that we already know and recognize when we see it written. But the author that is the most beneficial is that person who articulates that which we already know. And so my encouragement with the student is that they they have to accept responsibility for their knowing. And in the first part of the study, and this is not clown, this is just theater school, I have to say to them this first 3 months, 4 months, don't come to ask me questions, because I don't in the proposals of the first 3 months, there are only questions proposed that they must fill, that they must make experiments with. And so I say to them, you must make a Dead Poets Society. Exactly. You have to make friends with each other, and you have to go down to the river. You have to go out in the woods, and you have to, light a campfire, and you have to stare at each other and say, what did he mean? What is this about? What does this have to do with anything? How do I survive? How do I, and you become confidence of each other, and you begin to watch one another's progress and experiments, and you go, I think that was good, a good take, even though Ronlin said not funny, or even though Ronlin said, this is elementary, this is, you're still in kindergarten, you haven't really begun to answer the questions yet. So my advocacy is in school that the student appropriate the significance of their own intuition, that they have to, that they have to listen profoundly. They have to develop, say it the different way, they have to develop an appreciation for listening deeply to what's happening, to questioning things. In this way, the knowledge that they acquire is their own. It's not something that they have appropriated from something somebody said out of a book. It's they suffered for it. They paid for it. Carlo would go, it's the damn thing, and you have to pay cash. Nobody will take a check or a credit card. You have to pay cash, and the cash is is your sweat and tears.
It's a
and then, wow, and then you laugh. Then the laughter inside with simply revelation of knowledge becomes unbounded. It becomes a deep organic laughter.
It's a divine laughter.
Yes, it is a divine laughter. And so that by the time we get to clown, one can afford to risk everything. There are times everybody's, all concerned and scared or whatever it is. And some people work very well. I can tell they want to be forward, but they're embarrassed.
Yeah.
And or so these are things also from Carlo, is that fear and shame are two of the big disadvantages, but two of the big things that hold one back from standing before the people. And fear can be conquered. I can grow in my courage. I can decide to risk things. I can step out with fortitude. I can play stronger. I can breathe better. I can I put on my suit, and I forge the path. So fear can be conquered with courage. Shame, not so. You can never conquer shame with courage. You end up covering it up or digging a hole. That Carlo had an image for shame in that it was like a ski jump. And the person standing on the top of the ski jump must be willing to risk, and you dig in the poles and you launch yourself, but it is the force of gravity, and it is the elevation of the ramp that launches you out and sheds shame, that I am willing to be exposed. I'm willing to be exposed. Yeah. So those are things that, so in that case, sometimes with clown, while the person has a nose on and is acting crazy only as a distraction, I've put up the mats that stand on end so that they come up to about right here, vertically in a semicircle around the person, so that the people, we sit in front, and all we see is the head of the person. And so then I say, you have to tell us these set of jokes, you have to do blah, blah, blah. I speak to them and I say, okay, but you can't be successful with shoes on. So you have to take your shoes off. You know where I'm going now. You have to take your socks off. That shirt does not work for clown. That undershirt does not work for clown. Those pants probably don't work, or that skirt doesn't work for clown. And they know where they're going then, although not said. So some will get a really, really wonderful smile, knowing smile, and enjoy while they tell the joke, this other thing. There are the socks, there's the this, there's the that, there's the that. And then there's the underwear, or there's, and I have to say, are you naked? Maybe. Maybe. And then I have to say, oh, that's a face that goes with dancing. Yeah, it's a face that goes with dancing. It's a face that goes with jumping up and down. And so, yeah. So this also gets at this paradox, is that there is something that we suspect but aren't allowed to see, that brings this person delight in the play and the freedom in the play. I am completely exposed. I am naked back here.
Yeah. Nothing left to hide.
Nothing left to hide, but there's a barrier between me and you. So I can be delighted, and I can afford to be playful. I can afford to be. So, yeah, so that, those are a little, yeah, in this day and age, it's, I'm not sure how.
Yeah, it's really tricky, right? There's different standards and values applied to, to teaching environments. But I'm interested because in this exercise, because also I remember from our workshop back in England, that there was this exercise which seemed to capture something of the heart of your pedagogy and your teaching, which was the abyss, this 2 tables, and as a group and the tables are spaced apart, quite far apart, and a group has to arrive and climb up onto one table and then somehow make it across to the other table.
Yes.
And
This
there's
was,
a sense of risk and danger and
yes,
realness.
really. And I had to eventually say to people before we got into this, I said, this is only for this classroom. If you try to do this outside of the classroom, it doesn't work. You have to find your own abyss. You have to find your own danger. You have to find your own, because I was privy to this happening one time with a group of clowns who put this in a play of theirs, and it was, there was nothing like the hilarity that happened in the class the first time the student has to face this gulf.
So in a way, it's a symbol. It's a symbol of something, but you have to do it in practice to learn something. But then you have to find your own version of that.
Well, it's like at Lecoq, I did this throwing the stone thing. You walk down to the end of the peninsula and you throw the stone out into the ocean. You watch it drop, and so I do this, and my critique is, your arm is like a lance. It's this stiff thing that you play, and I'm going, arr. So I'm standing in the common room, throwing stones, and everybody's walking by. Everybody leaves, and one of the teachers comes out of the big hall and says to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm practicing." And he goes, and he just shakes his head and he says, "Go home." So and it's really interesting in Lecoq's pedagogy. I come from a background and from endless piano lessons where I had to practice. And so I'm trying to get it but that's not just the way you get it, by practicing. There are points of view and attitudes. There are releases in the body that one comes to by acceptances and by releases. And so, so the work of mine, in teaching is not about practicing until you get it right. It's about a playful attitude that allows you to open the door, which is an imperative. Yeah. That playful attitude that avails the vista,
Why?
Oh, I was going to say this, you brought up the abyss. The abyss came because of one of John Towson's exercises of just crossing the table, where the student has to come up and you have to cross the table some other way than just stepping across the table or just crawling. You have to find an inventive way of doing that. And so that is that's a beginning exercise to me. That was okay, this is that, but it's a one-off. It's a one beat that I figured, okay, there has to be, if that's the initial, there has to be something after that. And it has to, so the arrival, the development, the hitting the problem, of crossing this cube or this table is 4, but then there's a 5, which is a 4. So 1, 2, 3. Then there's the 4. You have to encounter the abyss, and the abyss is the problem. I mean, is the apex of the plot. If I'm moving across and I hit this thing, the other side and how I go off is a denouement, is 5. And so how I prepare, we didn't have a chance to do this in England, but the students have been working on traveling on passages, and so they're in groups, sometimes a duo, sometimes a trio, sometimes 5, sometimes 7, rarely, but they have to play the characters arriving in a group. They have to be going somewhere. We don't need to know where, but we see in that process their relationship. So the entrances that happen over here in this side before the abyss is where we understand their relationship, and then they have to take that relationship with the conflict that arises, which is to mount the table or the cube, that you have to get up there. Once up there, you face the real problem, which is the void.
So it's like there's a sort of a phony problem first. It seems like the problem of just the table or the block, which you conquer, but then the real problem emerges. It's like
also the block is a problem. How, for instance, one group, and this was a real learning process. One group said, we want to use a grocery cart because there was a grocery cart in the prop closet. And so a lot of people, want to lean on the eccentric thing.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, okay, fine. But I know that the next thing that happens is that they have to do this process of traveling over this abyss. So it's so they do it, and it's fine, and they get this all together, and it's very, very, very together. And then I say, okay, the next thing is this abyss, and so several people have gone, and the group with the grocery basket is. And I say, okay, the grocery basket group, and they go, but we can't use the grocery basket. And I say, of course, but you chose the grocery basket. That's what you've made the whole passage. That's how we understand you. You have to use the grocery basket. No, but we couldn't. We can't. You can't do that across this thing. I said, how do you know that? Have you tried to get the grocery basket across? Okay, next, grocery basket group. The abyss. It was. Folks were hanging from the ceiling. It was tremendous.
Right.
Rousing, because they didn't. This is another little deal. They didn't concede to the out. Oh, it's not reasonable to do that. It's not reasonable to take the thing. It's not, and in, not to be pejorative, but in circus clowning or in a reasonable clowning, it's unreasonable to have to deal with the weight of something like that is really dangerous.
Yeah.
Over this length of space, people to the edge of what they're capable of, physically, and it's terrifying. So, okay, we won't do that. But when you choose the impossible, glory.
Well, this is a great, this is a great life, I don't know, sort of applicable to life, right? It's just
Yeah. And so that gets back to this other thing. John Townsend, when the first New York Festival of Clown Theater, they used as logos different little insets in the publicity, these great cartoons. One of them, I think, was a clown is a poet, a clown is an orangutan who is a poet.
That's good.
Yeah, so it is, if clown is paradox, which places the fool as one who plays with paradox, but clown being paradox, everything that is done in that mode is metaphor.
Right.
Is metaphor. There was
Right. Whereas the fool is simile because, well, I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
The fool is being a little more distant from it and
Yes,
saying, look.
yes.
Whereas the clown is it.
Is the deal. And so consequently, clown to me is frustrated by narrative. So if I take a clown and I want to, and it's reasonable people to want to make a story with clown, it's frustrated the more deeply narrative a thing becomes.
Yeah.
Because the story takes over.
Yeah.
And the clown is the story.
Yeah. That makes so much sense to me, Ronlin.
So there were in putting together a clown show at Dell'Arte at one point. Well, at any point, there are people who get left out because there are pieces that work that are chosen for the show, and then there are people who were not in any of these or who missed one of these, and so they have to be commissioned to make a piece of their own. These people who kind of fell out. There were 3 folks one year who really fell out and were having a really hard time. And so, the show is, a day or two away. And so there's a lot of kind of desperation. There's a lot of, not even desperation because that has some energy to it, but just
desolate,
dejectedness. Yeah. So I said, you 3, you can do, make a passage, that is, make a traveling piece so that we understand make a travel. They understood this. So they went away that evening. I said, okay, show me what you've got. And they come in with a step unit, with a three step, step unit, theatrical, push it up to a stage.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So I thought immediately they've fallen for the, okay, it's going to be fine because we have a big prop. And then they started moving this thing, and it was them moving it over through. Of course, I'm making up some of this now because I don't remember it clearly. But they got it down in the position where you could walk on it. Oh, and so we walk up, third step, and an abyss. Nothing. Dilemma. So So I will talk not about the piece that they did, which was really wonderful as a traveling thing that went on, but it's emblematic of what is beautiful to me about clown is that while this thing is in the air and going around, they can be on their back, on their side, on whatever, that they are moving that thing which is their hope for moving. Say it's just this doesn't make any difference us being here putting it around and around. What makes a difference is us being able to go up these tangible stairs that go up, and so we see then too the possibility in ensemble, a group of three, we have the person who is delighted to ascend the stairs, and there's the person who is afraid to descend the stairs, and there's the person who wants to make sure the stairs are appropriately situated. That usually keeps him from ascending the stairs. So this is all would be all going on, and the person who ascends goes up and is caught by the realization that there isn't something more to life, to my plans, to my
Yeah, that's profound.
and it was a and the development of the arrival of that moment is then the play. And it could have taken could be absolutely is enough fodder, given three well-defined characters, is enough fodder for a stage show, an hour.
Yeah, and there's no story really.
And there's no story. It's my experience of doing this.
Yeah,
It is
beautiful.
how they encounter the unknown.
Yes, how you encounter the unknown. I think I heard you say that a number of times.
Yeah, the unknown is a big thing in my dialectic. Yeah, what I don't know is, but that's attributed, I think, to Einstein. Huh? What I don't know is more important than what I know. That's a saying from somebody, but it is.
Ronlin, we've been talking for like an hour and 10 minutes, and I want to keep going because it's so. I feel like we've covered about 1/10 of what I wanted to, but before we finish up, can I because we decided to call this conversation the act of falling.
Yes, yeah.
And I just wanted to finish with this final thought on your statement or phrase, which I wrote down from your workshop, which is that we must learn by falling. We must fall in order to learn about falling.
Yeah.
Could you just like explain why that is so important?
Well, on a couple of fronts. One with relationship to clown, that there's in the vernacular, how the clown is built on failure is a thing. This thing fails. This thing, I want to go through this door and it hits me in the face. I want to go here and I slide down, or there are failures. I wish to perform this really great feat and I mess it up. I have to be available to experience, quote, failure. There was a fellow years ago, a really strong guy, and we were doing this John's crossing the table thing, I think, in fact, I had already pushed a cube up next to the table, so there's a little bit, and then here, and then you could fall off the other end. And so the charge was that you make this crossing not in a normal way, so that you explore avenues. Well, this fellow was really adept. So, he runs up, jumps, flips over the table and chairs. And I'm saying, no, that's a acrobatic move. And not funny. It's admirable. And so come again. So he does that, hops up on the thing, does a pirouette, something, goes off the end. No, that's not. That's you in your own devices. I don't see you looking for or trying to figure out what this blockage is, how to circumvent this blockage in your path. I still know that this is a cube and a table to be dealt with. So come again. So we did this several times, and it's very frustrating for him. For him. So I thought, okay, the way to help this is I will tie his hands behind his back. I did that. Effortless. Butt on the thing, turn around with the feet up, over. I said, okay, come here. I tied his feet together. So clever, jump, strong, boom, boom. So it became how he could overcome the difficulties that I was giving him. So I said, look, and I hogtied him down on his haunches, knees up, hands behind him, to just a ball of person. It was very funny and deeply poignant.
Yeah.
To the point of weeping. Because he needed to succeed so badly. And he was now forced into the position of foolishness, and it was it was to his honor, to his glory, to his credit. Thank you. To his credit, I haven't talked about this stuff for years now. It was to his credit that he stuck with it and was determined enough to succeed, that he could push through the predicament that I handed him. Yeah, but it was, yeah, absolutely. There's another fellow. Yeah, so this is about this is falling. And there was a fellow, I have to tell you too, there was a fellow who had done the first year of the program at Dell'Arte. When we did the MFA program, he was teaching English as a third language in Japan, had married there, but he wanted to come back to do 2 more years. So it was great. Come back and do this. So in the study of clown that we went back and did, they were supposed to do a big deal, a funny thing with text and an event. They were supposed to do an event. And just him performing over and over. And it was just, no, go back and do it for real. Do it for real. Do be the clown, be the clown, be the clown,
Mm,
not you performing this thing.
mm,
And so little by little, it was just, so I took off my shoe and I took off my sock and I threw my sock at him up on the stage. And I said, okay, this is your costume. Nothing else. You have to use this as your costume. I didn't say nothing else. I said, this is your costume. So he comes out with it on his hand. I'm going, no, that's not a costume. That's a puppet. He goes away, he comes with something else, and he's doing his text and his whatever it is. But you can see inside, he's trying to defer what he understands the costume to be.
mm,
And he goes away and he goes, I don't really have to do this, do I? And I said, no, you don't have to do it. But it'll be funny if you do it. Silence. Weeping. Wailing, weeping.
wow.
And he comes out with this on his genitalia, nothing else. Clown, make up his thing, and he is saying his stuff, his lines, and water is pouring from liquid is pouring from every orifice, slobbering, snot, tears, and he is pushing through on this, and it is transfixing. He's a beautiful actor, wonderful sense of presence, that he was forfeiting by doing what he could do by being interesting. This obliterated all of his devices and left a rawness that that slew everyone in the room. Yeah, I'm not sure how then one, like the things that I play with are not techniques. Again, hearkening back with Raz, are not gimmicks or techniques to be put in your bag of tricks. So it's not that he can, to revisit coming on stage with a sock on his genitalia, weeping and wailing, saying text from who knows where, and be anything but completely unintelligible to an audience. So in the training that I'm interested in clown and in the theater is, how do we find ourselves in the midst of the unknown and come to recognize ourselves there? How do I transpose myself in the fall? First, I have to find an authentic falling. That a lot of people in this to fall are about playmaking, are about making a good fall or a funny fall, or terrified, like some really, that I have to walk beside them because they're afraid to fall. Literally afraid to fall. But once one understands that I move, that I can catch myself, and that it is running underneath the falling which creates momentum, and I can arrive. It causes me to genuinely arrive. Otherwise, I fake the momentum. I am acting like I'm running, or I fall down, or so one of my great interests is that we look at how things actually happen.
Yeah. Yes.
And the fall is one of those things. Yeah, so eventually we can look at the fall as comedy, tragedy, melodrama, as any of the divisions of theater. Surreal, I fall, but I have a gimmick that pulls me up, and I disappear into the grid. Yeah. So, but clown to me is the great gift that clown is metaphor, plays with metaphor, and and plays authentically then, and I say authentically, but I've got to start somewhere, and it becomes it's the clown's perception. There has to be a logic, but it's not logical. So that's another aspect of the things that I'm interested with clown, is how the logic accrues, how I begin to understand their sight, their perspective.
Ronlin, there's so much more to talk about. I'm starting to feel like maybe we should have you teach a ClownX masterclass, and just to I don't know, maybe we should talk about that, because there's so much here, wisdom and depth, and I'm just so grateful to you. You said that you haven't talked about this for a long time, but it seems very fresh, and how you're talking about it, it's all right there.
Good. It's just what Terre has terrified me really about doing this, is that it's and I've done some for the first time, not for the first time in my life, but I've made notes.
Wow. Cool.
And and I haven't gotten to I haven't hit all these
No.
notes yet either.
Well, it's good to keep people wanting more, as we know,
Good.
right?
Yeah,
So this is to be continued, folks. So this is just the end of chapter 1, Ronlin.
Yeah, and I can't. We talk about stuff, and I am really interested in the metaphysical realms, the cloud. But laughter, we have to laugh. We have to laugh. Yeah, and we can talk more. There is a whole. Have become very interested in the structuring of a gag and the play of threes, etc. And we talk about ensemble, because I don't teach at Dell'Arte, and where my own teaching, my conviction is that I'm not interested in teaching solo clown.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
That there is so much more that can be done by the person if the person is in community. A duo, trio, 5 people.
Well, I'm sure that everybody listening has been hanging off every word and just inspired by just this sort of there's some kind of integrity and sincerity to just how deep you go with it, Ronlin, and how seriously you take it, which is just very inspiring and important for me. So thank you. That's all it comes down to.
I have to find out. Yeah, I have to find out where the camera sees it. Oh, this one is good. This one is good. Did that work on the camera?
Yeah, I did. That's the secret of clowning, folks. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Ronlin, I'm gonna take you off and say goodbye to you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. We'll see you again next time.
Yo.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Clownversation. I'm sure there'll be more from Ronlin at some point. Next week, I'll be talking to Joanna Bassi. So tune in for that one. It's going to be a great conversation. I hope anyway, Joanna. You're going to be talking to me next week, right? I think you're listening. Joanna, great clown performer, teacher, historian, all these things. And it'll be a wonderful conversation. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, E.D. Krauser. Thanks, Catfish, Joseph, Marina, Mike, all the other folks have been watching. Yes, Joanna says, fabulous. I'm so excited for that one. Thank you, everybody, very much for being here for this conversation. Take care.